Eero,
Okay.
go ahead.
Good morning, Helsinki, and good afternoon, Seoul. I'm the Finnish ambassador in Seoul. I've been there since September 2016. And I will talk a little bit about the political and economic situation in South Korea. And this is a little bit broad and more into to set the things into the frame, and then Yoon-Mee will go more into the details that are useful for the enterprises. One thing which I considered, which I have been thought about Korea has two big neighbors, and what happens, it's quite often it's in the shadow of China and Japan, who are much bigger countries. But at the moment, it's also good to remember that Korea is, the Republic of Korea is pretty big country. It's over 50 million inhabitants, and let's say that the Seoul population is about 10 million, and the bigger Seoul is about 20 million. So it is a reasonable big market for us, and in many ways quite lucrative. It works as a democracy, and now we have a new president who came 2017, and it will be actually the first time that President Moon is there, and there's a president only once for 5 years. When we talk about the political environment where we work at, and of course the biggest challenge is the big neighbor China and Japan, but especially North Korea. And the country has been divided about since nearly 70 years. And it is quite interesting in the sense that there is still actually only armistice. The war hasn't ended, that actually ended in 1953. So this is quite an interesting part of the political environment, because it's always people talk about unification, and the more the years go, the further it goes. And this is always a challenge for the North Koreans and South Koreans. And of course, then when you talk about China and Japan, with Japan, it's very not that much known that there are historical problems between South Korea and Japan. And then there is the big China, who has their interest on the whole Korean peninsula. It is pretty complicated picture where the Republic of Korea or the South Korea is at the moment. It's also that Seoul is located about 60 kilometers from the border. So, and when we talk about the bigger Seoul, it's even nearer the border to North Korea. Also, that Korea is a young democracy. It's from, to be honest, that many times it is counted that only from 1988 there has been a democracy. But before that, there was two presidents from 1960s that were quite authoritarian and quite heavy on the power. But now there is, every 5 years, there is elections of the president, and then there is every 4 years there's an election of the parliament. This is what is very notable about South Korea is that it's an economic miracle. So it's a very rapid growth from a developing country into the 11th biggest economy in the world. And it has happened about 30, 40 years. And I would say that the basis for this has been created already in 1960s, but it has developed little by little, and especially from the 1980s, 1990s, it has developed a very fast pace. And this is also creates some kind of, I would say, illusion for the Koreans that the economy can grow so much every year, and there is a limitless way for the economic growth. And this is now little by little change in the attitude. The interesting thing is also that there are mainly two political parties, and this is very president-led policy. So every 5 years, when the president changes, there comes completely new kind of a policy, and that sometimes makes it difficult for the for the companies to adjust. That now, previously it was creative economy. With the new president, it will be, I would say, the fourth industrial revolution. That is A1 robotics, everything that is 5G, that everything that is related to that. But then after 1922, there comes a new president, perhaps with a new agenda, and that causes a little bit problems for the companies, also for the Korean people, because the focus changes. Sometimes it just changes literally; it doesn't change in substance, but sometimes it changes also as far as the substance is concerned. When we see about the economic, you see the curve. It's magnificent. It's growing very, very fast. The Korean economy, but now it's a little bit slowing down. The growth outlook for 2019 was 2.6%, and there are some signs that it will be not as fast as the Korean has used to have. But at the same time, when you think about Europe and many other of the developing countries on the same level as Korea is, the growth is strong. And it is catching up in GDP per capita, it's catching up European big wealthy countries quite rapidly. And this is quite also a sort of very interesting part of the because with that people's consumers' habits change with the wealth. That people are, for instance, as far as food is concerned, they are concentrating much more on the health food, high quality food, and that's something that is very good for the I would say for the Finnish food companies. Mainly the economic, as I said, they are around the Seoul metropolitan area, which is in the big. When we think about Incheon and some other some other cities that are around Seoul, it's nearly half of the population of the Republic of Korea. What is quite interesting also is that the rapid growth is based on very big one, sort of a family-owned conglomerates, the chaebols, that the government has supported, and that was the strategy to have the growth. That is a quick way that you give a lot of resources to these certain families that own big companies, and then they grow even further with the help of the resources provided by the state and the cooperation provided with the state. And it's good to know that 5 chaebols, the biggest one, they represent about half of the Korean stock market's value, and it tells how big they are. But at the same time, of course, it causes some problems for the small companies to be creative, because it's so dominant, the position of the big companies. As far as economy and innovations are concerned, it's number 2 in the funding and research and development, 4.5% of the GDP. Israel is the biggest. And in many ways, it's an open market economy, and it's a trend maker in Asia. So it's usually they are very, Korean has a very modern way of thinking, and they are very eager to take trends, and that are then followed by the perhaps more conservative Japanese and also the Chinese. So in many areas, especially art and culture, Korea is the trend maker. Perhaps also in mode and these kind of areas. And it's also a very fast country. The things, when you have a strategy or when you have a plan, the implementation happens very quickly. Sometimes for the Finns, it's so quick that you are just amazed that they are already putting the things into the practice. And also, of course, this is like Finland. Korea is a country of engineers, and they are very fascinating about the new technologies. They know that as they are not a big country in the comparison with the Japan and China, they have to be the best in technology, and that's something that they put a lot of effort. And They are also highly educated population, but at the same time, they are pretty hierarchical. You know, it's usually top down the decisions. It's a country who appreciates hard work, reliability, and efficiency. And they are the country that are, I would say that they have similar kinds of values as Finns. And I remember one of in my beginning of my career in Korea, I asked one of the artists that how is it to work with the Koreans? And he said that he said that it's always a pleasure because they are ambitious, they are hardworking, and most of all, they deliver what they promise. So he said it's very nice to work with them, and this I would say these chemistries of Finns and Koreans, they fit quite well together. In Finland, the Finnish country plan is excellent. In many ways, I would say Nordic welfare society is appreciated, but especially it is Finland that is coming out of the Nordic family. Might be that it's, as I said, that we both are very well known for the education, for the ICT, you know, for the science and technology. But the Koreans, what they seek for Finland is nature, and they are very interested in the Nordic and the Finnish welfare solutions. Actually, as long as we don't talk about taxes, but otherwise they are very interested of our sort of social welfare solutions, and this is something, for instance, the daycare is essential for the Koreans because you need more and more. They have a similar kind of age structure that there is more and more older people. So a lot of ladies, well-educated ladies, stay still at home, and this is the way that to improve the economy is to get more women into the work. And this is a new trend, but then you have to provide the daycare services, and this is something, a challenge that the government has to tackle with. What is also important for us is the EU and Korea had free trade agreement applied in 2011. I must say that Finland is one of the most, I would say, successful countries to apply the free trade agreement. Our trade has increased enormously because of this free trade agreement. What I feel that it's the bilateral trade grows and grows continuously. But what is important to note that is especially in the sector of services, and this is something that has been a big surprise for us, that 2018, 2019, the export of Finnish services will grow over 1 billion euro, and that's remarkable. That will be much more than the trade of goods. We don't know exactly if it's I would say program software or what it is. We haven't found out, and we haven't been told how is it. But what we feel is that this is quite remarkable, that the trade of services is going to be a more growing surplus for us. It's amazing. And then you know quite a lot of the services that Business Finland can provide you, but there are services that the embassy can provide you, and this is important to remember. It's usually you get the idea or the use of them quite often through Business Finland here in Helsinki or in Seoul, that what we can help you, how we can help you, and one of the things is to increase your visibility and credibility. We provide prestige services and opening the doors. Sometimes you have to see somebody in the administration, and it usually helps if somebody from the embassy comes along. Then you will have some certain kind of guarantee from the state that you're a sort of a good business, a profitable business, interesting business partner. And usually we are able to help you to solve certain administrative problems if there are some. Also, we create networking opportunities for the firms. We can provide different kinds of receptions. I would say the cost is reasonable, and usually people come very often when they are invited by the ambassador to the residence. That's something that can help you in your business. Also, visibility services. Sometimes we had an interview with me and the Finnish company together. I told all general in Finland, the company told about their products, and this has worked quite well. But it's also that we organize media contacts, media trips to Finland, which are very important in Finland, in Korea, because still, even though the Finns know about the Koreans know quite a lot about the Finns, I must say that more information, more knowledge is needed, and these media trips, especially on the certain areas of business, they have proved to be very useful. And so this is one of the ways that we are able to work. And we do quite a lot with and then of course we are able to assist in the market barrier issues and market access in other ways, and this is luckily that there are not so many market barrier issues, but still that we are able to help in them and work together with us, and also with the EU, that we work quite often together with the EU embassy when talking about these market barriers, because they seem to be similar kinds of companies. I think that was. I hope that I didn't go too much over my time, and I give the floor to Yoon-Mee, who has much more detailed and analytic, would say, information to provide to you.
Thank you very much. And then I'll give floor to Yoon-Mee.
I would like to start with a bit of a picture on the Korean business landscape.
Okay. Just a question to the audience. You see it clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great.
The texts are a little smaller. I was too ambitious to give you too much of information in the slide, so you would see a lot of little texts. But if you cannot see later, you will get the files. Right. Yes.
It's quite okay like this. It's readable.
Yes. The reason I have these few slides on the Korea's conglomerates is to give you a picture how important these conglomerates, especially the top 4 to 5 biggest companies in Korea. And many of Finnish companies think that Samsung is Samsung Electronics, or Hyundai is Hyundai Motors. LG is just LG Electronics, but it's a lot bigger than that. So just wanted to give you a bit of a picture. In terms of the total assets, last year, the biggest Korean companies, meaning conglomerates as a group, is Samsung as a group, not Samsung Electronics. Its total asset is close to 400 trillion Korean won. You can change trillion into billion US dollars, and that's approximately the value. So it's close to 400 billion US dollars size of a group of companies. Hyundai Motors is one of the whole Hyundai group, but Hyundai Motors itself is a group of companies, and it has asset of close to 200 billion US dollars. SK, it may not be very familiar to many of us because of the industry portfolio, but is the third biggest group of companies with about 190 billion US dollars. LG as a group is of 123 billion US dollars of asset, and then the list goes on. If we look at the top 20 KOSPI listed companies in terms of the turnover, Samsung Electronics itself is 240 billion US dollars sales companies, electronics alone. And then SK 100, Hyundai Motors, $97 billion. POSCO, the steel maker, $64 billion. LG Electronics, $61 billion. SK Innovation, mostly in the energy-related business, $54 billion. And the list goes on. Hyundai Mobis is an affiliated company of Hyundai Motors. And you can see how big their turnover is from Korean companies. If you look at Samsung as a group itself, it's the biggest company group in Korea. And they have affiliated companies of 62 as of last year. So within the Samsung group, there are 62 companies. And then their total revenue, $363 billion US dollars. And then the number of employees, 320,000 people. And their portfolio of industries includes electronics, heavy industries, biomedical, chemicals, even culture and sports, a lot of various services. And Samsung is also pretty strong and the biggest in the finance industry. So it means that Samsung Group actually dominates the life of Koreans in terms of their lifestyle. Hyundai also very much focusing on the engineering side, also has lifestyle business as well. So Hyundai Group in the marine, elevator, some finance, and then Hyundai Heavy Industry. They just acquired Daewoo in the shipbuilding. So Hyundai now is the world's biggest shipbuilder after the merger that will be approved by the Korea Fair Trade Commission pretty soon. And the Hyundai Motor Group has many companies, including Mobis, the biggest Korean Tier 1 company in the automotive. Hyundai Rotai makes intelligent trains. And then they have many other engineering companies. And the department store is mainly in the retail side, and they are pretty powerful in the retail business. And then there are many others. So within the Hyundai Group, excluding the smaller ones, there are 120 affiliated companies within the Hyundai Group. And they employ 311,000 people in Korea. LG. LG was originally sort of created with much bigger companies. LG was divided into LG and then GS. They are coming from the same family members. But we are not looking at the GS here, just focusing on LG alone. They have 72 affiliated companies within LG Group. And then their total revenue, $160 billion. And then they hire 222,000 people. And LG Electronics has its R&D center in Finland, in Turku. So LG is active in the electronics, cosmetics, pharmaceutical. In the cosmetics, LG is the biggest one. Oh, actually, the second biggest one. There's another one, the biggest one called America Pacific, which doesn't belong to this fourth biggest one. And then they are very strong in the chemicals and food and beverages. They are also very big in service and many others. So 72 companies within LG, excluding GS Group. SK also, they have 101 affiliated companies within SK and active in ICT, telecom, energy, chemical, bio, energy like gas and power plant and others. They are also active in the retail and online retail businesses in Korea. So chaebols, as Ambassador mentioned, they are really dominant in the Korean economy. The share of top 4 business group as a share of the top 3 groups, as you can see in the chart, it's basically Samsung, LG, Hyundai, SK, that represents over 50% or 60% of the assets and profits. So in a nutshell, altogether, these companies, the biggest 4, have a number of employees close to 1 million people. And if you include all the other smaller companies within the group or families, and then their domestic suppliers and partners, it's much, much bigger. And if you think about the 27 million economically active population of Korea, their dominance in the Korean economy and life of Koreans are pretty formidable. And then altogether, among these top 4, number of affiliated companies reached 350 companies alone. And then revenue close to $1 trillion just by 4 group of companies. And to give you a perspective, Korean government's budget for this year is only $419 billion. So these 4 companies are twice bigger as the whole Korean government budget. And Korea's whole GDP last year was 1.57 trillion USD. So it's pretty big. And another interesting aspect of these 4 biggest is that through marriages of their children's and grandchildren's and second and third generations, they are all big families because it's really interwoven by marriages. And they are also all tied through marriages to biggest Korean media. So chaebol and media are in the same boat. And it's blood blended, basically. This one, actually, why I spend so much time on this chaebol is because it's very important that we have some perspectives of these chaebols, because they lead the economy and they set the strategy and they set the future growth of the Korean economy. And it's very important strategically for Finland to look at what they are heading toward. Each of these companies have their own strategic research, economic research institutes under their own group of companies that sets the trends and foresights. And therefore, it's important for us to follow or monitor where they are going and prepare how we can collaborate strategically together with these 4 biggest conglomerates of Korea. And it's really, really high-level strategic collaboration that we should set, because these top-level companies' executives are more on the strategic foresight, meaning where they should make an investment and with whom they should partner. And in most of those cases, the dialogue is not really a supply of certain parts or technology, but more of a strategic consultative mode. So if we have a investing case client interested in Korea, it's not just about telling them what kind of incentives we offer, but we really have to engage with them into a strategic consultative mode. And there, it's important for us to come up with the ecosystem to provide more holistic and broad offerings. If you look into the industrial growth promotion plan on the more concrete level set by the Korean government, these 5 areas are where the Korean government puts huge investment into. Future vehicle, energy, IoT-based home appliances and smart factories, biohealthcare, semiconductor, and display. And as you saw from my earlier conglomerates slides, these 5 areas are where all the biggest 4 conglomerates are all very active and leading. If you look at the healthcare, one thing that I would like to bring your attention very seriously is the biosimilars. Korea would like to lead this biosimilar industry or bioindustry in general in the healthcare side, like they have led the semiconductor or the display industry, and they have in nature similarities in terms of the production lines and etc. Currently, Korea is the biggest biosimilar suppliers, and it accounts for 66.4% of the total global biosimilar revenues in 2007, and the number is bigger now. And we definitely have to find a way to collaborate between Finland and Korea in terms of the biotechnology and healthcare technologies, because Korea is the largest one and they have huge needs of innovation. And Finland definitely has something to offer based on our data-driven healthcare innovations. And we have pretty strong competences in Turku, for example, and also in Helsinki and Kuopio and Oulu in these areas. We just need to put things together to offer more strategic and broad and comprehensive offerings from Finland. And we bring it to really top level of Korean decision makers. The government's key initiatives in this digitalizing healthcare industry on top of biosimilars is precision medicine. And we have earmarked close to $50 million or euros investment for 2017 to 21 in terms of precision medicine. And use of AI in drug development, and also AR, VR technologies are used in terms of the investment in technology. Let's look at the energy. As you can see in the chart, currently Korea is pretty much non-renewable energy dependent country. So major source of our energy mass is petroleum, LNG, and coal. We want to change that. So by 2030, we would like to have 20% in renewable energy. So that's the name, Renewable Energy 3020. And on the right, you can see how we want to change the proportion of different renewable energy: solar, photovoltaic, wind, bio, hydraulic power, geothermal, waste energy. Some are increasing dramatically, some are decreasing to some extent. Out of this original strategy, a lot of questions were raised, because if our strategy for renewable is more focusing on wind and solar, where Korea doesn't really have competence, because these areas are where Germany and Denmark dominates in terms of technology. So now there is new kind of a master plan or strategy on the renewable energy, which is hydrogen economy. And now this is the hottest topic in Korea, and many other countries are actually having discussions how they can benefit of this initiative. So by 2040, the government would like to increase hydrogen vehicles up to 6.2 million units, charging stations 1,200 points, and then both in industries and household usages, we would like to grow in fuel cell applications. We have to check what Finland has in this hydrogen economy. At least Denmark, Austria are very actively discussing internally among their trade centers and embassy what they can offer to Korea. So we have to look what we have among Finland to offer something in the hydrogen. Electrical vehicle, it's growing. It's growing. Mostly currently it's hybrid. Electrical vehicle is fast growing, and then fuel cell is fast growing, but the starting point is pretty small. So it shows the biggest growth in terms of fuel cell, but the actual number is pretty small. Shipbuilding. Korea is pretty strong in shipbuilding, as you all know. We saw a huge downturn in 2016 and 17. And last year, July, government-backed organization called the Korea Maritime Promotion Corporation was launched to support the recovery of shipbuilding industry. A 5-year plan for industry reconstruction was announced in April, and its aim is to generate 51 trillion Korean won, equivalent to 40 billion euros in revenues by 2022. And this plan included 3 major initiatives. So stable cargo booking, and energy efficient ships, and of course smart vessels, and then stable management through continuous innovation. And in terms of the size, last year, the total orders volume for Korea was 12 million CGTS, and that's the most in the world for that year last year. And the total value of orders was 22 billion euros. And Korea built last year 252 vessels, and that's second after China. And Korea scored 44% of all global orders last year. And we did excellent in the LNG tankers. And Korea is also a notable buyer in the shipbuilding market, not just a manufacturer. So it spent 2.6 billion euros to buy vessels. All in all, shipbuilding industry accounts for around 6.5% of Korean GDP. ICT is, as you can see, and as we all know, is pretty much where Korea is really leading the position. And in the Bloomberg Global Innovation Index, Korea has been ranked first 5 times in a row, including last year. And Ambassador mentioned that Israel is pretty strong, and Korea is really strong along with Israel. And you can see in the chart how fast Korea has been actually hiking in its GDP domestic spending and R&D, which actually was a main contribution of the leading position of Korea in the ICT industry. So some of the numbers to give you a perspective of the size. The scale of total ICT industry production in 2017 was about 364 billion euros. And last year, from January to November, it was 351 billion euros. So quite big. And the lion's share of total production is equipment and devices. However, the outlook for coming years is not as robust as it has been. The growth rate is pretty, let's say, stagnant. Export and import-wise, semiconductor alone covers nearly 60% of Korea's ICT exports. So semiconductor, mobile phone, and displays are the main source of our export in Korea. And this is a risk factor for Korea because when the semiconductor price is affected, our whole economy is affected and the volume of business is affected. So Korea has acute needs of resilience of semiconductor and display businesses, not to be so much fluctuating because of the price of display and semiconductors. Unfortunately, Finland doesn't have much to offer in the semiconductor industries and also display. Maybe a few companies have some solutions, but not enough scalability and capacity to cope with the Korean scale. But if we know any new innovation in the semiconductor and display, that is something that we need to find out and build up some offerings. Industry strategies. Last year, January, the government released an innovative growth joint report from several ministries. And they listed 13 sectors as the new growth engine areas where most of the government investment for R&D will be put. So intelligent infrastructure, including big data, AI, 5G, IoT, smart transportation, autonomous driving, and drones, and then combined services like personalized healthcare, smart city, intelligent robotics, etc. And then industrial foundation, including semiconductor, advanced innovative materials, innovative medicine, new and renewable energy. These are where Korea is really, really keen in improving its positions and technological competitive advantages. Especially AI and 5G, we are focusing on these two areas. And this is something that we need to put things together to offer something to Korean companies and the government for cooperation. So in a nutshell, this was Korea business and strategy for us. If you have any questions, here's the contact point.
Thank you very much. And then the last presentation is from Finnvera.
Yes, good morning and good afternoon for my behalf also. My name is Outi Homanen and I'm Senior Advisor at Finnvera. What is Finnvera? Finnvera is a part of the Team Finland partners, one of the main partners situated here in the TF house in Ruoholahti. We are a special financing company owned by the state of Finland, and our global exposure in export credit guarantees is at 23 billion euros. So what we also do is, what is the most important for us domestically, is to provide Finnish SME, small and medium-sized companies, domestic financing for their working capital needs within Finland, or when they want to internationalize or to use capital for exports. The big thing that is major thing in our assets is the export credit guarantees, which we offer to protect Finnish companies against export risks. We both cover payment risks for political and commercial reasons. When your buyer is not willing to pay or not able to pay for financial difficulties, so you can take an insurance for your receivables. The credit insurance is one product of us, and then buyer credits and bonds to be used in foreign trade are on offer. And we have also loans and guarantees for internationalization of small and medium-sized companies. As Finnvera finances profitable business in cooperation with financial markets, so there is no specific sectors that we would prefer, but we are available for all companies in Finland. And we have the official export credit agency status in Finland. Thank you. As the ambassador and trade commissioner were already describing the dynamics of the South Korean market, there seems to be very much interesting things going on and many opportunities also for Finnish companies. So South Korea is categorized in very low risk category in export credit guarantee scale. We have a risk scale from 0 to 7 as regards country risk, which we share with other OECD countries. And South Korea is in lowest, that is category 0. So the country has excellent banking sector and modern payment capabilities. But we still have possibility to offer short-term trade insurance for transactions with 30 to 180 days payment terms for goods and services, and then buyer credit for infrastructure or bigger industrial projects with longer payment maturities up to 10 years. These would start with 10 or 20 million euros up to hundreds of millions of euros, these kind of transactions. What we demand for our participation is a credit worthiness of the transaction parties and target country. Of course, South Korea is self-evidently a credit-worthy country, but we must have credit information and some financial statistics of the company that we are looking risk in. So we also have guidelines for sustainability, good governance, and corporate responsibility, environmental and social issues. As we are very well cooperating with other export credit agencies, there is a big and important export credit agency called CAPE, Korea Export Insurance Corporation, and another arm of that is Export-Import Bank of Korea. So we might, Finnvera might work jointly with those companies to finance exports to third countries if you have joint ventures with Korean companies. So maybe as we, so this was something very short to tell you about the possibilities, what you can, how you can use the Finnvera services. As we heard before, the Korean companies are big and financially strong, and these kind of companies do not see the point of using advance payments when they buy something, and then you might want to use the export insurance products by commercial trade insurance companies or by Finnvera, and please contact us well in advance, so we are very aware what you are planning and can adjust our services to your needs. Thank you. And there is my information on the last page. Thank you.
Thank you very